Hi. Let me start off by presenting to you a situation which is no doubt familiar to you if you're an avid online gamer. Yeah, okay, but get ready for my special move.
Why don't you go
hold on.
outside and make some real friends instead of playing video games all day?
Mildred, I'm literally on call with one of my friends right now. We're playing right.
I mean some actual people, not those online people.
They literally are an actual person. How else would I be talking to them?
Well, I don't see them sitting there right next to you.
Just because they're not here physically doesn't invalidate them as a living being.
Well, I just think you should go out and make some real friends. Why don't you try that?
Why did you trill your R?
Don't talk back to me, Missy.
Literally, what are you talking about?
Just put that game on pause. You can come back to it whenever you want and go out and talk to some real people.
Mildred, it's an online game. That's how I'm playing it with another real person who exists in real life. I can't pause it.
Well, then tell your friend you've got to go make some friends.
You literally just admitted to them being a friend. I heard it.
Just talk back to me.
Okay, that's gone on long enough. I'm sure I've already given half the audience flashbacks. But what if I told you that that kind of talk isn't only annoying, it's also blatantly wrong? Online socialization is just as valid as interaction in a physical space, and can be especially beneficial for people who are ostracized in physical interaction for one reason or another, including but not limited to people with autism. Online games solidify that even more, given that they almost always require communication of some kind, and if they don't, it almost always makes the experience more enjoyable for the player anyway. They require teamwork and cooperation with in-game peers, which can help to build the friendly relationships between them and enable players to meet new friends or just bond with the ones they already have. And to top it off, in online games, they can have a personified avatar to represent and associate themselves with, meaning they don't have to worry about whatever physical form they were given due to the circumstances of their birth. So that means online, no one knows if you're a rabbit.
Hey, people know I'm a rabbit online.
Well, yeah, but if you didn't want them to, they wouldn't have to.
Hey, you're right. I could be Hop from Pokemon Sword and Shield.
You sure could. Yeah.
Thanks, Melody. I'm gonna go out and be British now.
Yeah, no problem. The next topic on a lot of people's minds is usually addiction. Well, if you build your entire social circle online, they'll say, what if you get addicted? They'll point out something like, hey, I have a friend who got addicted to online games. They never leave their house and they're always talking to their online friends. Well, first of all, okay, you shouldn't be leaving your house right now anyway, there's a pandemic. And second, those types of people misunderstand what addiction actually is. If you don't look hard enough, you might see someone actively socializing with a lot of people quite often, and just because they're not physically there, brush it off as addiction because it doesn't look like what you'd expect traditional friendships to look like. I would have imagined that now more than ever we'd be over the idea of traditional anything and that we'd just let people live their lives, but here I am making this video. Anyway. Daria Kuss from Psychology Research and Behavior Management at Birmingham City University, in her paper Internet Gaming Addiction, Current Perspectives on Dove Medical Press, lists 6 criteria for a clinical diagnosis of internet gaming addiction. As follows. 1. The patient must be, quote, preoccupied with gaming. Now, what do I mean by, quote, preoccupied? To me, this means that it gets in the way of their real-life daily activities. If their real-life daily activities already normally consist of this, and this is their real-life normal activity, then they're not preoccupied with it. This just is their life. Calling it a preoccupation assumes that it must be getting in the way of their real-life job or education in some way. 2. The playing of games has to be something that they do deliberately to shift their mood. Now, what does that mean? Don't most people play games for the express purpose of shifting their mood due to the enjoyment derived from playing a game? Daria Kuss defines this as they're using it as a way to escape reality or create euphoria. Which is exactly why most people play games. Since this is such a widespread reason for people to play games in the first place, especially people who aren't addicted, it doesn't make sense for it to be a criterion of addiction. 3. The patient develops a tolerance to online gaming. That is, they must play more and more games for more and more time in order to achieve the same effect that it had before. 4. They experience withdrawal symptoms when not playing online games. This includes things like irritability, depression, anxiety, etc. This criterion feels to me like one that could be used to try to diagnose addiction in people who clearly aren't addicted. Often, people turn to online games because people in their real life ostracize them. They use them as a way to help with those sorts of symptoms. So if they experience them when not playing games, from an outside perspective, it's going to look like withdrawal. people. And even then, Wittstrom and others found that this is uncommon in those with a diagnosis of internet gaming disorder anyway. 5. Their relationships are damaged as a result of their addiction. Obviously, as I've already mentioned before, this entirely ignores the relationships formed within the game, but it's pretty obvious that this criteria was referring to specifically relationships in a physical space with, quote, real-life people. And finally, when the patient tries to give up on online gaming, they can, quote, relapse. That basically just means, even if they don't want to, they end up going back to online games anyway. All of these make it pretty difficult to distinguish between someone with an addiction and someone with lots of online friends and a well-defined online social circle who just understandably doesn't see a need to really move away from it. Alvaro Alfonso and others found that what usually happens isn't a neglect of real-life relationships, but just a conversion of one's social dynamics to be through the medium of online games, just like I said. Tejero and others agree. They found that there is no direct harm done to players' social lives just because they play online games. In reality, online socialization, especially in games, is incredibly helpful to people with autism. If you would, picture this with me.
Hey,
Oh, hi.
how are you?
How you know? I've just been a little swamped with finals this week, and
Jeez, I didn't want your life story. You're just supposed to say, okay, how about you?
You asked how I was.
Whatever, never mind. You must be real fun at parties.
Yeah, actually. I went to a friend's birthday party last week, and it was so crazy, and
That was sarcasm. Learn to take a hint.
What?
Couldn't you tell I socially cued that it was sarcastic? Anyway, what do you like? Tell me about yourself.
Well, let's see. I like... Wait, was that some sort of hidden implied encoded message too? Did I miss another one of those elusive social cues? I'll just have to wing it. You know, I like Pokemon.
Makes sense.
Okay, what the fuck? Yeah, okay, admittedly that was dramatized a little, but how was I supposed to portray it? I don't even know what a social cue is! Okay, so clearly it's not an ideal situation for the normal, I mean autistic person in the situation now, is it? Like, genuinely, I don't know how y'all do it. What even is small talk? And it's like, you're asking me how I am and you don't actually want to know how I am and you're saying things that have hidden implied meanings? Anyway. Let's take out the physical aspect of socialization and remove the social cues, and we'll see how it plays out differently.
Oh, hi there, person I've never met before.
Well, hi there, person I've never seen before in my entire life, and I'm meeting for the first time right now.
I'm a little new to Minecraft, and I've never played it before in my life. And I'm also a cat in real life. You can teach me the ropes and also how to press the keys with my little kitty paws.
I sure can, new friend. So, you see, you press Alt F4 to win the game immediately. As you can see, the two immediately had something to bond over. The conversation topic brought itself up due to circumstance, and now those two will likely end up being friends, whereas in real life, they may not even have been able to come across each other in the first place. You'll even find that within many games, a set of gestures will form in the context of them. Things like pointing with attacks, repeatedly crouching or jumping as a greeting, or just moving the camera around to simulate paralinguistic gestures in a physical space. It's really common for players to make friends in the online games they play, most of the time to the point where they'll communicate outside of the games as well. The chat surface Discord was originally created specifically as a, quote, chat for gamers, meant for people who played games together. They've since rebranded, but the program is still widely used for this purpose. Even beyond friendships, it's not horribly uncommon for players to find themselves in romantic relationships with people they met through the medium of online games. Online relationships, romantic or not, are typically looked down upon and thought of as being lesser than real relationships in the physical world. Some argue, however, that friendships they've had online are the best they've ever had, allowing them to express themselves better online and have more fulfilling relationships than physical ones. These types of relationships can also be significantly easier to upkeep, since you don't have to be there physically with someone to engage and hang out with them. And it's made even better by the fact that you don't have to deal with the physical form you were given at birth in the game either. Lots of games, especially online ones, have a character creation and customization system, if not a full-on model uploader, to let players make themselves look however they want, provided they're willing to put in the time and effort. It lets folks express themselves however they want to be. They can experiment with identity, aesthetics, personality, etc., and it won't have the same sort of stigma that it does in real life. First impressions can come across a lot better too, since the character's appearance has been crafted by the player themselves, and it often says a lot about them. That all culminates to help people communicate who might not have had the same sort of opportunities in the real world for whatever reason, be it unjustified social ostracization or anything else. Ostracization. You have no idea how many takes it took me to say that word correctly. Games are a topic of conversation. And when you have a shared goal with someone else playing the game with you, it makes it that much easier to make friends with them and helps build teamwork skills while you're at it. It may just give people the experience they need to make it out there in the world if they wouldn't have had any other sort of experience otherwise. Contrary to seemingly popular belief, talking to people and making friends just because it's different from how most people do it isn't hurting anyone. Holly Pringle of Press Start and Stella Goodrich of My Girlfriend agree that that layer of a created character instead of using the player's physical body tends to further make players feel better about themselves since they're more able to be themselves and express themselves without the filter of real life. Grab a cookie every time I said themselves in that sentence. But if there wasn't a market for making friends in online games, there wouldn't be games like VR Chat out there. It's hardly even a game. You can't win. It's just entirely built around being a medium of socialization for people. Online games give people a starting point for conversation and a reason to keep conversations going. They help create friendships and solidify existing ones to last. They exhibit real-world benefits, self-esteem through self-expression, relationships, cooperation and teamwork, or even just escapism from the real world to a constructed virtual world with people who may be more willing to accept you than people in real life. Everyone in online games is a real person, no matter how much they might look like just another NPC to the uninitiated, and making friends with them is just as valid as making friends with someone you met in high school or at work. Arguably better, actually, because people online can't usually tell when you don't cue socially correctly. Seriously, what is a social cue anyway? Am I doing it right?